Hello everyone, it's Tracy at For the Love of Stamping. Welcome to my craft room. Today I'm going to show you how to make this collar fold card. What you're going to need for this card will be the following supplies. You'll need a card base, which I'm using Misty Moonlight, which when it's folded measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. You'll need 2 pieces of Whisper White cardstock, 4 by 5 1/4. A piece of designer series paper that we'll also cut at 4 by 5 1/4. And then you're going to use the gift wrapped stamp set, and using the bow, you're going to stamp one bow in Misty Moonlight on Misty Moonlight and another bow in Memento on white. You'll also use the stitch star dies to cut out 2 swirls in Bumble Bee, which we will use to finish the accent piece. And when finished, your card will look something like this. Of course, we'll be using different colors. So let me show you what you need to do to create this fold. Just move our stuff aside, and we'll take a piece of cardstock, and you're going to, a piece of designer series paper, you're going to measure across the bottom using a ruler and a pencil over 2 inches. So start with your ruler, measuring 2 inches from the right side, and place a pencil mark right here. On the long side, I want you to measure at 1 1/4. So you'll take your ruler, set it at 1 1/4, and put a pencil mark right here. Again, measuring from on the long side, we're going to measure up from where we did our 2-inch mark up to 3 inches and put a little pencil mark there. And the reason for these is that these 2 pieces these 2 points are where you're going to use your scissors to cut to create the fold that you'll see in the front of the card, as we have right here. So I have a pair of long handled or long blade scissors. I find they're best to use these because then I can do one cut as opposed to have to cut a couple of times with a short blade scissor. So I'll just cut directly up from the pencil mark on the right up to that pencil mark in the center of the card stock. To create this fold, all you need to do is fold these pieces back. And in doing so, you'll end up with this fold like this. Now it gets a little tricky because this is a very, very narrow piece, but don't worry because when we're done, we're going to be covering that with the accent bow. So when you fold up your pieces, this piece we're going to fold up. I'm not going to worry about that little pencil mark because I'm going to end up covering it anyways. You're going to notice that it overlaps the edge, which is fine. What we're going to do is we're going to take our scissors and cut that off. But I'll fold this, press this down with my bone folder, like so. One thing I don't want to do is rip it, of course. And I'll flip it over, and I'll grab my scissors again, and I'll just trim that right along the edge to get rid of that excess. Okay. This piece here, we just carefully fold down. What you could do is if you wanted to make sure that it folded nicely without, you know, really wrecking the paper, take a ruler and, you know, a stylus, or in my case, a bone folder, and start yourself with a line or a score line. So we'll use our bone folder to create that. And I often like to start it by just using the edge of my ruler to help pull that up. Okay, and that starts it. So that gives me the crease that I need to start, and then I can take my bone folder and start to press that down, like so. Okay, and then just wiggle the bone folder right up in there to get your crease. All right, so that gives you the opening where we will then stamp our greeting. So having said that, because of the color scheme that I have, I'm going to switch over to this piece here that I actually pre-cut. And I will then adhere that to a piece of Whisper White cardstock. And they're cut the exact same size, so when they're adhered together, then you'll end up not seeing the white from the back. But that gives you, like I said, the opening for you to be able to take the greeting and stamp it right in here. And I've used Misty Moonlight to do that stamping. So I'll take the piece that I'd already done ahead of time, and I will adhere these together. I'll grab some Tombow glue. And just place these together. I'm just putting some Tombow in various places. I like to just give it a little bit, not too much, because I don't want it seeping out over the edges, but I do want it to stay in place. Okay. And then right to the front of that Whisper White. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of tap it so that I know that they're square, like so. Okay. And then I'll press it down so it stays in place. And then adhere that layer directly on the front of my Misty Moonlight. Right. Again, so I have a little bit of an overhang there, but that's okay because it's coming right on top, and then I wasn't too worried about having the overhang on this. I wanted to make sure that they that it fit as a 1/4 inch all the way around. Okay, and I will just do this. Add a little bit of Tombow to the back and adhere that directly to the front of the card, like so. Okay, so that completes the front of the card. Now, to do the accent piece, as I mentioned, you're going to have 2 pieces of Bumble Bee that you'll have cut with the Stitch Star dies. We're just merely going to adhere those right down like so with some Tombow. I'm only going to put a little bit right here because I really don't need to have much more than that. And then once I've stamped my images, I will cut them out. I will punch them out and I'll color this one, and this one here becomes the back layer. So what I'll do with this piece is that I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut this in half. And what I'm trying to do, as you can see on this card, is create a bit of a background to it, so it gives it a nice bit of pop to the front of the card. So I'll take the scissors, I'll just cut that in half, like so. And then starting with my Misty Moonlight markers, again, like I said, you can use regular markers, you can use any color that you desire, but in this case, I'm just using the Misty Moonlight. And what I started off with was the dark Misty Moonlight around the outside edges here, or the outside of the bow, and I just started to fill those in, and I alternated my colors. So that one gets the dark, and then the next one will be the light. You can either do all the dark at once, or you can alternate between the dark and the light. So I'll just show you a couple more here, and then I'll show you the finished one. So put the cap on that, always capping up our markers. And then we come in with the light Misty Moonlight, like so. And then this one here as well. Might as well finish it off just so you can see. Like that. And then when you're finished, you'll have a bow that looks like this. Now you see I've already layered these pieces in behind. What I've done is I've cut it in half, as I said, and I've used dimensionals just to pop up this Misty Moonlight from the back so that it gives it that nice lift. Finishing off the card, we will then adhere this directly to the front like so with dimensionals. And then finishing with some of the rhinestones, which are the holiday rhinestones. I'll add 3 little yellow rhinestones around the edge and 1 large one in the center, so that when we're finished our card, it looks like so. And I've got the 1 here and the 3 around the edges. The extra white piece you'll just layer on the inside of your card for you to be able to put your greeting. Thanks for joining.